I'm Teisha Bader with the JBS News Update for Thursday, February the 26th, 2015. As tensions over the nuclear talks with Iran continue between the U.S. and Israel, U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry yesterday seemed to question Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's judgment on global issues and his concerns over the possible deal with Iran. Netanyahu had said on Tuesday during a tour of the IDF Southern Command that according to the information he had received over the last few days, the deal being worked on between the P5+1 and the Islamic Republic would, quote, allow Iran to become a nuclear threshold state, threatening the security of the State of Israel. In what seemed like a response to the Prime Minister, Kerry told a congressional hearing on the State Department budget on Tuesday, Iran will not get a nuclear weapon. Anyone running around right now jumping to say we don't like the deal or this or that doesn't know what the deal is. There is no deal yet. The Times of Israel reported that yesterday, Secretary of State Kerry had implied to the House Foreign Affairs Committee that Netanyahu had pushed for the U.S. to invade Iraq in 2003. Kerry told the committee the Prime Minister was profoundly forward-leaning and outspoken about the importance of invading Iraq, adding that Netanyahu now, quote, may have a judgment that just may not be correct here. The Times of Israel speculates that Kerry's saying that Netanyahu had encouraged the U.S. to invade Iraq and remove Saddam Hussein is an attempt to delegitimize the Prime Minister's current warnings about the U.S. making a bad deal and paving the way for a nuclear Iran. A bipartisan Senate resolution condemning anti-Semitism in Europe was introduced yesterday. It was authored by New Jersey Democratic Senator Robert Menendez and led by Republican Senator Mark Kirk of Illinois, Democratic Senator Barbara Mikulski of Maryland, and Republican Senator Marco Rubio of Florida, with co-sponsorship by 52 other senators from both sides of the aisle. It calls upon the U.S. to work together with the European Union and European governments to address the growing phenomenon. Upon introducing the bill yesterday, Menendez noted that it has been 70 years since the liberation of Auschwitz. He said this resolution firmly recommits the United States and its European allies to combat anti-Semitism with even greater resolve, vowing to never again allow the atrocities of the past to be repeated. The Anti-Defamation League welcomed the resolution. ADL National Chair Barry Curtis Lusher said the senators were mobilizing an important moral voice in the Senate, standing up for the safety and security of Jewish communities around the world facing anti-Semitic violence and intimidation. Israel's security agency, the Shin Bet, announced today that Israeli security forces had uncovered 2 Palestinian terror cells in the West Bank that were responsible for several shooting attacks on Israeli vehicles and at an IDF post over the last few months. One cell in the village of Beit Rima is part of the Palestinian Front for the Liberation of Palestine. The second was near Hebron in the Bnei Naim village. 3 suspects were arrested and weapons and ammunition were also found. The Shin Bet said the cells had confessed to planning future attacks, including an attempt to abduct an IDF soldier. Police in Israel are investigating 2 incidents of arson thought to be hate crimes. Overnight last night, a fire broke out in a Greek Orthodox seminary near the Jaffa Gate in Jerusalem. Hateful anti-Christian messages were found on the walls. Earlier yesterday in the West Bank near Bethlehem, a Palestinian mosque was set ablaze. In both cases, the phrase, "the redemption of Zion," was found on the walls. Police are looking into whether the 2 attacks are connected. This morning, Israeli President Reuven Rivlin spoke by phone with Patriarch Theophilus III of Jerusalem to express his sadness and shock at what he called a heinous crime. The government of Turkey, for the first time, held a commemoration ceremony for the victims of the Struma. 768 Jews were killed on the refugee ship when it was hit by Soviet torpedoes in 1942. The Turks had set the ship adrift off the coast of Istanbul after refusing to allow in the refugees that had left Romania and were trying to get to pre-state Israel. All those aboard died except for one. Turkish Culture Minister Ömer Çelik led the ceremony yesterday, which he said was, quote, a way to remember this pain that is a part of our history. He said the day would continue to be marked so that, quote, history will not repeat itself and no Jews, Muslims, or Christians will suffer from such a tragedy. Selig added, we all pray to the same God, and today Islamophobia, anti-Semitism, racism, and xenophobia threaten humanity more than ever. Looking now at our programming for tonight, Thursday, February the 26th, at 8 o'clock, a discussion of the history of the West Bank and suggestions of its future in a possible peace agreement with Rabbi Emeritus of Temple Emmanuel of Atlanta, Rabbi Stanley Davids. That's from the JCC of Stanford with James A. Cohen. Then at 9 tonight on L'Chaim, Mark Golub sits down with President of Americans for a Safe Israel, Mark Langfan, who discusses the geography of the West Bank. And immediately following this JBS News update, stay with JBS as Mark Golub will be speaking with publisher of the Jewish Voice, David Ben-Horon, about the controversy surrounding the upcoming Netanyahu address to Congress. And that's the JBS News update for Thursday, February the 26th, 2015. I'm Teisha Bader.